We'll call to order the City of Douglasville's legislative work session for tonight, which is Monday, October the 17th, 2024. Our invocation will be done by Elder Truett Williamson of Harvest for Christ Church. After that, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by the Mayor Pro Tem, City Councilmember Terry Miller. Please stand for the invocation. Yes, ma'am. I apologize. Elder, you can come down to the microphone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Heavenly Father, we've come today with thanks and gratitude in our hearts for you, Lord. Lord, we thank you for this committee who is here before us. We pray they have come together with the same mindset on one accord, Lord. We pray for your wisdom for them to make right decisions, that families can grow, feel safe, prosper, and live peaceably in this community. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem, for leading us in the pledge, and Elder Williamson, we appreciate the prayer of invocation. My name is Rochelle Robinson. I'm Mayor of the City of Douglasville. I'd like to welcome you to our legislative work session. This evening, I'll go over a few of the protocol rules and how we will conduct our meeting, and then we can get into the meat of the meeting. I'd like to welcome you to the Douglasville City Council Legislative Work Session. This is a work session where agenda items will be presented for discussion only, and no official action will be taken on the items this evening. We will do that on next Monday, the 21st of October at 6 p.m. If the business you're here for is not listed as an agenda item, there will be ample time under the agenda items, comments from citizens and delegates for you to discuss your business. I'll go over a few protocol issues, as I've said, and then we'll get into the meeting as it is printed on the agendas. There are paper agendas outside if you'd like to follow us that way, and or you can follow us on the screen above my head where there is an electronic agenda. I'd ask you please to keep your comments and presentations on a professional level, dealing with the facts that are important for this governing body to make our decisions. We will not accept comments that are considered by the chairperson to be of derogatory or a personal attack on any individual or group of individuals. You will receive a warning from the chair. If you deviate from this requirement, a second deviation will result in a request asking you to leave the chambers on the premises for this evening. Only one person speaking at a time. Please do not applaud or react to speakers. Speak from the audience, cheer, or carry on a conversation when you're at the podium. When you come to the podium, please address all of your concerns to myself or the committee chairperson so that we can deliberate and make our decisions. So we appreciate that. We're required to take public comments during required public hearings, and how the public hearings will go is a person will present, his or her applicant will present their information. When it's a public hearing, that chairperson will call for those who are in favor of the item. They'll have 20 minutes in totality, and those who are in opposition, and each person has 5 minutes to speak. When you come to the microphone, please give us your name and address for the record, and then you can proceed to talking to us. There are forms outside. They're blue cards, speaker forms. If you'd like to talk to us, we ask that you would please fill those forms out, hand that forward to our Assistant City Clerk, and she will have that information for the record, and then you come to the microphone and give us your information that you'd like to share. Each person only has one opportunity to speak. It's not a question and answer debate format. We're here to hear the information, as I said, go over it in our minds, deliberate, and make a decision for next week. I believe that's all we have. If you have printed materials, please give those printed materials to our Assistant City Clerk, and she will, Ms. Candace, and she will make copies and disseminate those copies to myself and council members to help us to prepare for next Monday. Now, we will follow the agenda as it is presented, either in paper form or electronically. And we're down to committees, and each committee is held or led by the committee chairperson, and they will go over those individual items. So the first committee is Economic Development Committee. That's chaired by Mayor Pro Tem City Councilmember Terry Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business under the Economic Development Committee at this time.
Thank you, sir. We'll move on then to Finance Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Chris Watts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We only have one item tonight in finance. Item A, to authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with Albion General Contractors for RFP 2024-008 Conference Center renovations in the amount of $144,208. And we've got a presentation on that tonight.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council. Steve Morrow, 2005 Goldenrod Road, Roswell, Georgia. And I'm here with CPS. And as the agenda item says, this is a recommendation to award the design build contract to Albion General Contractors for the amount of $144,000. So just briefly, I'd like to just kind of go over the process by which we went through in order to arrive here, to give you some comfort and help you to understand what we did to make sure that we were selecting the right firm for this process. So the RFQ went out, we received the proposals, and we received actually proposals from 6 firms. Those firms were evaluated on their qualifications, experience, their technical approach and innovation, cost effectiveness, and their references that they provided to us. From that list of 6 firms, the committee was able to narrow it down to 3 firms in which online or Teams interviews were conducted for each one of them. The members of the committee that conducted the interviews were Samantha Rosado, Chelsea Jackson, Jennifer Johnson, and Melissa Burdette. CPS had acted in an advisory role to either answer questions or help clarify any of the points made by the contractor from a technical perspective, and just to answer any questions that might be needed. For all of you to just be aware, a short summary of the scope of work that we're planning to carry out for the renovation of the convention center includes a full evaluation of all the systems in the building, the HVAC, the electrical, the mechanical, and plumbing systems for the building. And the next step in taking and awarding this to Albion will be us working with them and their design firm to come up with the plan for the execution of the work. Right now, we have an idea that we want to renovate the space, but we don't know exactly where to prioritize the funds. So we'll do the evaluations of the systems, which will help us to understand if some of that money needs to be spent on the systems. And then we get to look at the sort of the finishes or the refresh of the building, whether it's paint, wood, paneling, flooring, the bathrooms. We will prioritize each one of those. And once that prioritization is complete and the committee is satisfied that we've prioritized the work to be done, we will come back to you again with a preliminary or a conceptual design and a budget which will establish the plan to go forward. So this first step is simply for us to be able to sit down with the folks who run the facility, understand what their priorities are, and then put a plan together to execute what work needs to be done from both a full design and an execution of the actual work and a budget that goes along with it. So this is just the first stage of that. So it's our recommendation too that the process that we went through was strong. I think we made the necessary steps to help find the best contractor and design firm to be able to do this. And I think staff and the committee did everything that was needed to be able to make that happen. So I'm here to answer any questions.
Yes, sir. Any questions? Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, I see your head nod, so go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Are we giving any consideration to, shoot, the word just left my head. Basically, it's a contract that where you monitor the continuing functions of the systems, HVAC and so forth. What's the word I'm looking for? You know the word.
Commissioning?
Commissioning, thank you, that was the word.
Yes, sir.
Commissioning. Are we giving any consideration to commissioning this, the renovation?
So I think the answer is yes, but it's also going to depend on what the evaluation, so as part of this process, we want to look at those systems, look at their age, look at how they're currently functioning. The staff will be able to tell us, look, this room never gets cold enough, or that room is always too hot, whatever it is, and that'll help us to understand if something needs to be done. It might just be a new test and balance of the existing system that we have to go through, and we'll plan that into the budget and get that work done. But if we feel like it needs to be more extensive and recommission the actual systems that we have, we will include that in the budget and make sure that that work gets done along with the rest of the renovation. I think it's key to point out, the systems are obviously an important element. We need to make sure they're right first, and we're going to do that and make sure that they're evaluated before we start
That wouldn't say,
replacing carpet.
had we done that at the beginning of this, when we constructed the building, we wouldn't be spending the money now to figure out what we didn't know this far in, but yeah, it'll be a good idea to do the commissioning from this stage forward at least.
Yes, sir,
I mean, there's a lot of moving parts in this building.
absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Any other questions, comments? Yes, Mr. Davis.
Yes, thanks again. I like you when you said assess the scope of the work and what's needing to be done. And I like that, so that way we'll know what breakdown. My question would the kitchen be a part of the, looking at the scope of the work, upgrades in the kitchen?
So I think it's our intent to look at everything from the exterior of the outside walls in and see where it makes the most impact on the facility for the money to be spent. If kitchen evaluation comes in as part of something that's high enough on the priority list, I just don't know until we start to look at the age of the equipment, look at the function of the kitchen, the layout of it. Do we need to make significant changes in there? So the design firm that's going to be working with us will look at that and be able to tell us what their recommendations are based on what they see when they come into the building.
Yeah, I'd like to see that because that's where the biggest part of the money come out of, pushing out that kitchen.
Okay,
Okay,
well,
thank
we'll
you.
definitely consider it and make it part of the programming sessions for sure.
That's it, thank you.
So, but the main focus going in is the HVAC system, or?
So an evaluation of them and also the structure of the building will be part of it, and to determine if money needs to be spent there, but it will be an overall look at the, let's call it a refresh of the entire facility. Whether it's carpet, paint, new curtains, new tile in the bathrooms, all of that will be
Gotcha.
considered, then prioritized. And then when we get to the point where we've reached the edge of the budget that we can't achieve anymore, everything above the line will be completed, and then we'll have some that's either left over or we'll bring back to council for consideration if additional funds are available to be able to handle those items.
Ms. Rosato, remind us where the funds come from for this particular project again.
We had it budgeted in 275, which is in the conference center budget.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you for that. Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Steve and Ms. Rosato. I did have a logistics question in reference to bodies, like the council and other events that may be scheduled. From my understanding, the renovation start in June. They'll be for 6 months, so I think we're moving to the municipal building or something. If you can just explain that to the council, I would greatly. I know that's partially not what's going on with this agenda item, but I think it pertains to it a little bit.
Deputy City Manager has the Community Safety and Building at the Police Department booked starting at the end of May. So for now, until we figure out the scope of the project, that is going to be the plan, is to move the council chambers into the community building over at the Public Safety Complex.
Okay. And starts in June, so you said that May will be our last meeting in this building, and then we'll move while renovations take place.
Yes, ma'am.
And 6 months, 9 months, or what's the?
We've blocked off in the software at the conference center from June through December. However, once we come back to you all, after all of this process is done, the first phase of with Albion, we'll have a better scope and with the milestones to present to you.
Okay, so the total facility will be unusable, so we can't have a portion where you have small events to take place. Everyone who would book in the conference center should know that 2025 is going to be blocked off for at least 6 months.
In the current phase of where we're at, we're not able to determine that. So we went
Okay.
ahead and blocked it out for 6 months, just so that we don't overbook or overextend ourselves, and we're not able to fulfill any promises or contractually. So right now, we've just booked it off for those 6 months, just in case, but we're not sure in this current stage of what we're going to be able to do.
Okay, so no fall weddings. Brides have to go find another facility.
Yes, ma'am, that's currently how we're planning.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rosado. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am. Mayor Pro Tem, you had something else?
Yeah, one last quick question. This is, I don't see it stated explicitly here, but this is a GMP, guaranteed maximum price.
So what we will come back to you with after we get through concepts and develop our budget, then we will, that's exactly what we'll be doing, is asking to establish a GMP for the prioritized list. And we'll do what's called a GMP amendment to this contract that we're doing right now. And we'll establish the GMP that'll have everything built into it. And we'll obviously share all of the details of that with you once we get to that point.
Thank you. I'm a little disappointed that you didn't consider CW contracting for their $1 bid amount. I mean, that, we could have beaten them down a little bit from that. Thank you.
Yes, Councilman Davis.
Okay, and you said once all the, everything come in, it'll take, say, June, and, when you look at, doing night work all day, or how would you scope, once you get the scope of what need to be done?
So I
We
think
do
the
it in
contract as
phases.
written will be it'll be daytime work unless there's some critical component that needs to be done that can't impact the facility because something is going on. But exactly what you just said is the key element. As we develop this scope of work, part of that analysis is how do we execute the work? Do we take down sections of the building at a time and do that completely, finish it, and then hand it back? Or do we
Right.
take the building down for the entire 6 months, go through the whole thing, get it finished, and give it back? Because we can do it in 3 or 4 months instead of 6, because we take the whole building down. That's part of the discussion that needs to happen with staff and the contractor to come up with that plan to figure out how to execute it. And we'll do that over the next few months as we sit down to figure out what the scope of work actually is.
Hopefully, the Port of Savannah, in the tentative contract, could be full blooming. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you all, appreciate it. I'd like to place this on the consent agenda, if that's okay with council. Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor, that's all I had tonight under finance.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to staff. Thanks, Steve, and to Ms. Rosado for presenting to us. We'll move on then to the next committee, which is Housing and Community Affairs Committee, chaired by Councilmember Howard Estes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Housing and Community Affairs Committee has no business this evening.
Thank you, sir. We'll move on then to Personnel and Organization Committee. That's also chaired by, oh, that, it didn't populate on my, I did the update that's not on there. There isn't one here or on the computer. Let's see. Well, if you say we have business,
No, we don't have any business under the
Legislative Intergovernmental Committee,
But
Ms.
those who
Mayor
might
Pro
have
Tem.
interest would be felt left out if they
Oh,
thought it
okay.
was ignored.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you so much. Now, Personnel and Organization Committee, chaired by Councilmember Howard Estes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have a few items tonight for personnel and organization, but bear with me. I've had cataract surgery in one eye, but not the
Thanks,
other, so
Chase.
I can't see real great up
Uh-oh.
close. First up, item 24-350, adopt a resolution providing for one-time special holiday season payments to City of Douglasville employees for the year 2024. And as with all three items, we will have Dr. Brian Westfield explain for us.
Okay?
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council.
Good evening.
Dr. Brian Westfield, HR Director, 6695 Church Street. This is the annual resolution that addresses the yearly holiday bonus. The following amounts are proposed. $1,000 for full-time with 60 months or more, $750 for full-time with 6 months to 59 months, $250 for all part-time employees, and $100 for seasonal and temporary employees. That also includes interns. The major difference between the 2023 resolution and 2024 are as follows. there was an adjustment or recommendation to adjust the full-time tenure. Last year, it was $1,000 for 6 months or more. The proposal this year is $750 for full-time employees with 6 months to 59 months. The second major change would be part-time employee payments. Last year, part-time was based on tenure. This year's proposal addresses part-time employees in one pool with a recommendation for a payment of $250. Lastly, gift certificates or gift cards. This resolution eliminates the provision for the $50 gift card. Reason being, employee feedback. Historically, we've went with Publix and we've went with Kroger's, where you have employees saying, well, I don't shop at Kroger's, and other employees saying, I don't shop at Publix. It's probably best to recommend we take those funds and roll them into the, just the program itself.
Thank you, Dr. Westfield. Seems pretty straightforward and easier for you and the rest of staff to figure out how to handle everybody each year. Does anybody have any questions or comments on council? Madam Mayor?
No, sir.
Okay. Seeing none, then I would like to place this on the consent agenda for Monday, please.
Looks
And
okay.
then we will move on to the next item, number 24-352, adopt an ordinance to amend Section 11-11 of the Personnel Policies and Procedures for the City of Douglasville to revise the sick leave buyback program requirements for employees. And back to Dr. Westfield.
Thank you. Dr. Westfield, HR Director, 6695 Church Street. This proposed amendment to the PPP or MUNA code seeks to add budgeting flexibility to the annual program. As the city grows in personnel, more funds are required to support this annual program. These changes aim to provide necessary flexibility for budgeting, specifically focusing in on tenure requirements and buyback amounts. The proposed changes in summary would allow the city manager, with input from the finance and HR department, to determine eligibility based on tenure, decide on hours eligible for exchange, and the month for payment and processing. Subject to your questions, that's all I have on this particular topic.
Another fairly straightforward item. I'm sure there might be some grumbling over some of these changes with staff members, but it's incredibly generous for the city to even have this program still. Because in the private sector, sick leave buyback does not exist anymore that I'm aware of. So I'm thrilled that we are able to still offer that to our employees.
Yes, sir, and I would say that most employees, they are grateful for the previous bonuses and gift cards, and they're thankful for your consideration for this particular resolution.
Any questions or comments from council or Madam Mayor? Okay. Seeing none, I would like to have this placed on the consent agenda as well for Monday. And then we'll give Brian one more shot with our final item. Item 24-362, adopt a resolution to set the parameters for the 2024 sick leave buyback program.
Yes, thank you, sir. So this resolution is predicated on the amendment. So if the amendment is approved, then this resolution would be next. So this resolution proposes the criteria for this year's sick leave buyback. This proposal, of course, is only for full-time personnel, as they have the ability to accrue sick leave. The following are the proposed tenures and amounts. If you've been with the city 6 months to 23 months, you can trade in 10 hours of sick leave. If you've been with the city 24 months to 59 months, you can do up to 40 hours. And lastly, 60 months or more, you can do 60 hours. Subject to
That
the-
leaves me with one question.
Yes, sir.
Is there any max amount of sick leave that an employee can accrue?
That is a great question. So I'll pick on Captain Edwards. I'm sorry, sir. So as we look at people who retire, If you're retiring, you can cash out at 600 hours sick, 400 hours vacation, so an employee could essentially walk away with 1,000 hours. So we look at this resolution in this program as twofold. Number one being a retention incentive, and number two being a cost-saving measures down the line, strategically looking. So hopefully that answers your question, sir.
Thank you very much. That's a great point. Any other questions or comments from up on this side? Seeing none, then I would like to have this placed on the consent agenda as well for Monday. And thank you very much, Dr. Westfield.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Madam Mayor, that is all we have tonight for the Personnel and Organization Committee.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I have a quick question for Dr. Westfield, related but unrelated.
Yes, ma'am.
About sick leave and all of that. With our open enrollment and just a quick report, open enrollment and the WellCare Center.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Just a
The
quick
status.
update. I'll start with the benefits.
Yes, sir.
For the most part, dental, vision, everything is staying the same. No changes, no increase in rates. The vision rate actually went down, which is a win-win. We're still talking with our broker for the medical rates. So
Okay.
I think we have some new information that came in while I was sitting here. So we'll review that and we'll make sure we get on everybody's calendar
Okay.
to discuss it. With the Wellness Center, we are reviewing potential candidates. We're almost there, I think. So as we keep vetting the organizations who submitted proposals, we will definitely keep everybody informed.
Okay.
In the meantime, the workaround, of course, is CVS and the Minute Clinic. We've sent out a couple of emails to employees to let them know that that is a viable option.
All righty. Thank you so much, Dr. Westfield.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
appreciate that. Thanks for the update.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. So we'll move on to the next committee, which is Public Improvement and Beautification Committee, chaired by Councilmember Nicole. Oh, it's not? Okay. I know. Planning, Personnel Organization Committee, Planning and Development Committee, chaired by Councilmember Nicole Miller. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think you were trying to get out of here a little
It
fast.
must be.
We do have a couple of items this evening.
Yes,
The
ma'am.
first is item 24-339 that says to hold a public hearing and consider a request for a special land use permit for a child care learning home for property zoned R2 Single Family Residential Detached District for 0.95 acres on 6525 East Strickland Street in Land Lot 20, District 1, Section 5, Parcel ID 0127, application by Mr. Inc. And Mr. Dana Gray is here to talk to us about that. Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Good evening, Dana Gray,
Good evening.
6695 Church Street. This is a request for a special land use permit for a family child care center for up to 6 children located at 6525 Strickland Street, approximately on 0.29 acres. It is zone R2. They are working within an existing 2-story home, and the applicant is here.
Perfect, thank you. Would the applicant like to come down? If you'll give us your name and address for the record, please.
Okay, my name is Dr. Esther Onyerimba, and the address is 6525 East Strickland Street. This child care learning center is basically ABA. I don't know if you all are familiar with ABA, Applied Behavioral Analysis. So what we're doing, what we want to do is to provide behavioral analysts to provide services to children with autism or certain delays. And we did a market survey. We saw that there was a need here, and that downtown Douglasville is like a really good area for people around Douglasville and the surrounding suburbs as well. The outside building, the warehouse, we're going to convert that to administrative building where we hold conferences with the parents, and basically conferences with the parents, and then like offices there, like my office and everything.
Perfect. So currently, there's a home there and a small building is also on site, and then you guys will just make the adjustments needed to that property as needed. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I definitely applaud you guys for being willing to provide the much-needed services to our community, most certainly. Council, do you guys have questions or comments of the applicant? Madam Mayor?
Thank you so much, Madam Chairman. Good evening, good to have you. Yes, ma'am, so, and this might be for staff, or you might know yourself. If granted a special land use permit, the SLUP, how long is it for? And the requirements, and the other part two to that are the state requirements. Have you met all the state requirements for safety and had the building retrofitted and all of that with fire extinguishers, alarms, all that kind of stuff?
Yes, we've done the fire extinguisher. alarm.
Extinguishers.
We just have to get the fire department to come and test everything out.
Okay. And the SLUP, how long will it be for?
Ms. Reed, can you tell us that?
Good evening,
Good
Shayla
evening.
Reed, Community Development Director, 6695 Church Street. Our special land use permits recently, we have not put a stipulation on the limit,
Okay.
so we just have granted it indefinitely. So that's how we've done in the recent few years.
So then, is it attached to the business license or the property itself?
So that use itself is attached to the actual property itself. So as long as it has the use, it's allowed to continue.
Okay, so then if she were to want to sell the business, it would convey to the next owner if they wanted to keep in line with the same type of business?
So no, that would be, no. I'm sorry about that. It would be attached to the license. I apologize for that. No. So
Okay.
if it's granted to the next person, that would have to go through the same process. They're here before you now, asking for that request. So again, as long as she's operating, that goes to that grandfathering clause that we have, where as long as she's operating, doesn't go out, I guess, having the license not used for 6 months, then she's allowed to continue. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, did that explain?
It kind of does, it does, but it brings another question. I can't remember the street, but it's across like Doris Road, and then it changes when you cross Fairburn. And there was an issue there with the auto parts facility when we had a new owner, and that racetrack or something was being built, a Quick Trip, about what the uses were, what it was zoned. They had a special land use permit, they didn't have a permit. So is this going to create that type of situation? Or you were saying something about grandfather, Ms. Reed. So if this is a SLUP for a daycare center and the owner leaves or sells, rents the property out or moves her business, you're saying the special land use permit goes with her or dies
Right.
there, and then it reverts back to an R2, and someone else would have to come in and get another?
So the zoning remains.
Okay.
So she'll automatically have the zoning. That doesn't change.
Okay.
The special land use is the addition to the zoning. So what happens in that is, as long as she is allowed to have the license, she's allowed to have the special land use. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the previous situation with the gas station that you mentioned. I apologize.
It
But-
was next door, it was two do you remember what I'm talking about, Madam Chairman? There were two, Penley Towing or Automotive, and then another towing place or car lot or something. And so there was just issues with it, someone purchasing it and saying that it was zoned for that.
Okay.
Or they had that, but it was not zoned, so we had to go through a lot of trying to change the table or something. And even with this situation, so it reverts back to R2, not to a daycare center.
So let me do this. Before you decide on Monday, I can have a response as far as the previous situation with the gas station. I need to do a little research to see what happened in that case.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
if you can, I'll compare it to this so we can understand before you make your decision on Monday.
Okay.
Yes,
All right,
ma'am.
That helps me. But it will stay, that, just for this one, it'll stay R2.
Yes, ma'am.
So
The
the-
zoning doesn't change. You just allow her an
Just the
additional use
use.
on top of the permitted uses.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Reed. Did that help? Council, are there more questions? Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ma'am, you said, I didn't hear you quite right, that you would have fire extinguishers or a fire suppression system in the building?
The sprinkler system.
It's sprinkler system. Okay, so you're installing that. It is a two-story building. What are you intending to do with the second story?
Have classrooms for the autistic kids. So my plan is for them to be able to adjust in life situations. So we'll have stuff like the theater room, we'll have something like, the grocery store, so the next way they can be in real life situations, so when they're at home with their parents, they won't, get freaked out. Those,
So you're going to have like classroom type situations on the
classroom
second
st-
floor?
yes, we have
How
a
are they
computer
getting-
lab.
How are you getting access to the second floor? If
Well-
it's going to be ADA?
with ABA?
If you said ADA.
No, ABA.
Oh, ABA, I thought you said ADA, I'm sorry.
No, it's ABA.
Okay. We might want to check to make sure that there are any access issues. If she has to install, I don't know how many square feet the building is, but if it's over a certain amount, you might have to install an elevator to get to the second floor. I don't know that off the top of my head. I don't, not knowing the square footage of the building.
But mostly, if the child is not able to get up the steps, we have the classrooms downstairs as well.
You have what?
Classrooms downstairs. There's
Okay.
rooms downstairs. Upstairs is more of like the computer lab and the theater, but
just-
downstairs is where they do their academic
But be
stuff.
careful to make sure that you comply with all the ADA rule, American with Disability Acts.
Yeah, we looked at that. We did the rails for the bathrooms, expanded the bathrooms. We did all of that.
And make sure that you have ramps in the front of the building and have
Yes.
full access and out the back as well. Your rendering doesn't show them, but I know that's an early drawing. So
Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with that. I do also run a practice in Austell, so I'm pretty familiar with the ADA guidelines, so that's where we're putting in
Okay.
for that.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Thanks, guys. With that being said, this is a public hearing, so if there is anyone here who would like to speak either for or against this item, if you'll come on down and give us your name and address for the record. And as Councilman Davis would say, if there are no takers, I'm going to go ahead and close this public hearing, and we will take this item up on Monday. Thank you so much. Our next item is item 24-351. This is to hold a public hearing and consider a request for a variance from section 4.08 of the Unified Development Ordinance to allow a canopy accessory structure to be placed in the front yard setback at 34 feet on a lot of 1.04 acres on Highway 5 and Land Lot 190, District 2, Section 5, Parcel ID 0049. Application by Vikram, oh no, if someone could tell me how to pronounce that so I don't butcher it. And it looks like in care of Dean Camper, and Mr. Gray is on here to go over this item as well. Thank you.
Good evening again. This is a request for a variance to allow a gas station canopy to be placed in the front yard setback. It is approximately 34 foot from the front property line. The property is located on Highway 5, close to Veterans Memorial Highway. It is zone GC, which is, the gas station is allowed outright. And the applicant is here.
Thank you much. If the applicant would like to come down, if you'll give us your name and address for the record, please.
Dean Camper, and my address is 5484 Southern Drive, Villa Rica, Georgia. And I'm representing my client, Vikram Manahani, with regard to the construction of the project here. And the reason that we are asking for the variance that we are is we've got a couple of site challenges with the project. If you can look at you should have a copy of the site plan and also of the elevations that I gave to the clerk. But if you look on the northern side, you'll see some red dotted lines. Those are indication of a AT&T easement on the property. And underneath that is a fiber optic line that's buried about 9 feet deep. And the AT&T doesn't have an issue with us putting the building in the orientation that we've got, but if we do it the way that the ordinance is dictating, we'll have to put it over top of the AT&T easement, and that's not going to be feasible. So if we set it back horizontal, facing the road the way that it is, then we can fit it in, because there's also an issue on the southern side of the property, because we've got to do an underground detention, and there is a storm drain that runs through that southern side of the property. And so it kind of constricts where we can put the building and where we can put the canopy, and that's why we need the easement to be able, the variance from the ordinance, in order to fit everything on there in a way that doesn't impact either the storm drain negatively or that AT&T easement negatively.
Thank you so much for that explanation. Council, do you guys have questions or comments of the applicant? I'm sorry, we're looking at I'm shocked that Mayor Pro Tem has
We've
nothing.
run into this in a number of
Yes.
times where we've got setbacks that are rather awkwardly
With
drawn.
canopies, with gas stations and Chick-fil-A's is
Yeah.
what we were discussing just earlier today, that's when we seem to see those. Okay,
We have seen this before.
yes, we have, and I'm sure that we'll see it again. Well, if there are no questions of you guys, let's go ahead and open this public hearing. If we have anyone here who would like to speak either for or against this item, now is your chance. Darn, look at that, no takers again. All right, with that being said, then we will close this portion of the public hearing. And I appreciate your presentation and going over this. Council, you guys didn't have any other questions of the applicant? I know we kind of dove into this and asked all of our questions in the 4 o'clock, so, all right, well, then we will take this item up on Monday.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. All right, last one, promise. That is item 24-340. Says, hold a public hearing, I love public hearings, and adopt a proposed ordinance to amend section 8.04 of the Unified Development Ordinance regarding the Metro Water District Water Efficiency Code. And Ms. Shayla Reed is here to go over this item with us.
Yes, ma'am. Earlier this summer, we mentioned that the state updated their plumbing code and that we were being required to make an amendment to our code to allow for those particular changes to the plumbing code. And after we have submitted over to the state, they did not give us any necessary changes from the proposal that we had submitted to them. You have given permission for us to take it to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission also agreed that there were no needed changes, and they recommend approval. So we're here before you tonight to ask for the clarity and permissions to move forward with the edits to this file.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I know that we've talked about this a lot because it took a little while to get there and kind of understand what we were doing, and that is. Council, do you guys have questions of Ms. Reed regarding this item? No? Since it is a code change, we get to have another public hearing. So if we have anyone here who would like to speak for or against this item, and if we don't, I'm going to go ahead and close this public hearing, and we will take this item up on Monday as well. So if you guys think of any more questions between now and then, I'm sure Ms. Reed would love to answer those for you as well. Thank you so much, Ms. Reed. Madam Mayor, that is all that we have this evening for planning and development.
Thank you so much, Madam Chairman. We'll move on then to the next committee, which is also chaired by you, Public Improvement and Beautification Committee.
Yes, ma'am, and we have no business this evening for public improvement and beautification.
Thank you so much. We'll move on to Public Relations Committee, chaired by Councilmember Samuel Davis.
No, I at this time, thank you.
You're welcome. Councilman Davis, do you mind taking the next committee for me? It is Public Safety Committee, chaired by Councilmember Dr. LaShawn Burdanley.
At this time, Madam Mayor, no items, thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilman Davis. We'll move on then to Recreation, Culture, and Tourism Committee, chaired by Councilmember Chris Watts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have one item tonight. Item A is to authorize the mayor to accept a $20,000 grant from the National Recreation and Park Association Incorporated for the Workforce Development Community of Practice, Advancing Workforce Development and Career Readiness through Parks and Recreation Project, and authorize the mayor to execute any and all documents associated with the grant. And Mr. Bass will handle this.
Okay.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of council. Chris Bass, 8830 Gurley Road, Parks and Recreation Director. We are seeking approval to accept a grant of $20,000 from the National Recreation and Parks Association for their Workforce Development and Career Readiness Program. This particular grant will be used as an expansion of our existing counselor and training program that we utilize teenagers to help with career readiness, to eventually transition them to a full part-time role within our summer camps and after-school programs. Right now, as our program is set up, we don't pay or provide any type of stipend for our participants. This funding would allow us to provide some type of stipend for the individuals within the program. So, I'm happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
Thank you, Mr. Bass. And this is not a matching grant, I take it?
No, sir, this is not a matching grant.
Good, good. Did anybody on this side have anything? Yes, Councilman Estes.
So Chris, so they give us a gold medal and then they give us money? Not a bad deal.
It appears that way.
No, congratulations on that, by the way, but this is fantastic. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you, Mr. Bass. I'd like to place this on a consent agenda for Monday. Madam Mayor, that's
Looks
all I had
good.
tonight under Recreation, Culture, and Tourism.
Thank you so much, Coach, and thank you to the award-winning Director, Parks and Recreation, Mr. Bass. We'll move on to Technology Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Elena Hudson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business under the Technology Committee this evening.
Thank you, ma'am. Would you mind taking the next committee for me? Transportation Committee, chaired by Councilmember Dr. LaShawn Burdanley.
Yes, ma'am. We have no business under the Transportation Committee this evening.
Thank you for being gracious enough to take that committee for me. I appreciate it. Do we have any other business to come before council tonight from the elected officials? All right, I don't see any. I would like to congratulate our Parks and Recreation team again for winning the gold medal award. We done now. I know it wasn't working. The gold medal award. We were one of the finalists last year, and in Dallas, and so I think it was Dallas, Texas. But this year we actually won. The whole national Parks and Recreation from all over the country came to their convention in Atlanta, and so last week, Coach and I were excited to go with the city manager and other staff down to Atlanta, and they actually won. Oh, you want to say something? Yes, sir. Okay. I thought you were going to like put the cherry on top for this. But anyway, our Parks and Recreation team, led by Director Chris Bass, won the award for gold medal for the population of 30,000 to 70,000 from the NRPA. So we're excited about that. Yes. All right. Councilman Estes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I
You're
just wanted
welcome.
to remind everybody that the CAC's chili cook-off is Saturday
Yes.
evening. And this group up here has a chili table with 2 different kinds of chilies, both of which have won first prize before.
That's right.
So, y'all come out.
We're the champions. That's all.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. CAC, it's the 28th year for chili. It's going to be fun. Hopefully, it'll be a little brisk in the air, and you'll want to have some chili to heat you up and warm your body and your soul. So we're excited about that. Any other comments or announcements from council members? Thank you so much. We'll move on then to our updates from our city staff. Our city attorney, Mr. Joel Dotson.
No business, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Dotson. Staff attorney, that is not Miranda, that's Ms. Lynn. No business, Madam Mayor. Thank you so much. Our police department.
No business, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Good to see you. Our city manager's office.
We have nothing new, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deputy City Manager Jackson. Comments from citizens and delegates. If you sustain the meeting and you'd like to speak to us, please come down, give us your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes to talk to us about any business germane to the city of Douglasville. All righty, I don't see anyone. If we don't have any other business from citizens and delegates or nothing else on the agenda, not having any other business, this meeting is adjourned.